Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Tom Cruise month cruises into week 3. I know. Week 1, we started off with Risky Business, which is a Tom Cruise classic.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2, we did Days of Thunder, which in research afterwards, I kind of found out most people think of as like a lesser Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, that one wasn't necessarily like a necessary like component of his filmography. It's like, yeah, well, there's other movies like it that are better. Like,
That's his B-roll.
Yeah. So week 3, we've kind of come back to a bona fide Tom Cruise classic. Like this is a huge movie for him when it comes out. I had not seen it before.
Neither have
I. But I knew a lot about it, at least in terms of like what it contributed to the like pantheon of classic movie scenes and quotes and stuff. It's like there's almost no way to watch like a countdown of like greatest movie quotes in movie history without getting at least 1 or 2 or 3 of the scenes from this movie. So it wasn't brand new to me, like especially the ending. I was like, I know pretty much exactly how this is going to turn out. There's no real drama there, at least in terms of the Tom Cruise, Renee Zellweger storyline.
Right.
But it was still quite a sight to see. The movie, of course, is the 1996, and as Wikipedia puts it, American romantic comedy drama sports film, which is a fucking mouthful. Like it's all completely true. But just realizing like, oh yeah, Jesus Christ, is Jerry Maguire. Cameron Crowe directed. As soon as I saw that name at the top of it, like Cameron Crowe, I was like, okay. Because I was sort of expecting, I don't know, until I saw the runtime, I was expecting something a little more mainstream rom-com. Like, not that it isn't, you know what I mean? Like, not that it's like, it's some crazy, weird, experimental film. Like, no. But looking at it, like 2 hours and 18 minutes, it doesn't really feel it. It doesn't super drag or anything. It's got a nice, like, flow to it. At no point was I sitting here like, oh my God, we have another half hour of this. I was just like, I'm here, I'm in, let's do this. But, you know, being that long, it's like a more mainstream rom-com would have cut so much stuff out of it. But it felt very much like, since Cameron Crowe like wrote it and directed it, that it was just like, no, all that extra stuff that most studios are going to cut out is going to be in there.
Oh yeah.
Like Renee Zellweger's creepy au pair nanny guy who gives Tom Cruise the tape of jazz and stuff and has that whole big thing with him out on the porch. I guarantee you, if you're handing that in, most studios would be like, can we lose that guy? We don't need that guy, right? But it's Cam Crowe's movie, so he's like, yeah, no, he's in it. Everything's in it. This movie has everything in it, except apparently Artie Lang. He shot a scene for the movie and got cut. But Cameron Crowe called him to tell him that his scene was cut, and he appreciated that.
That
he like
is nice.
took the time to be like, hey, bud, sorry, but we're not going to use your scene. But Jerry Maguire, obviously Tom Cruise as the title character, Cuba Gooding Jr. as Rod Tidwell, who I knew that he won Best Supporting Actor for it because he has like one of the most famous Oscar acceptance speeches of all time, because he just starts losing his mind. You know, he gets like a minute into it, and he at first he says like, oh, you know, I'm just going to keep naming everyone, and if you cut me off, that's okay. And then he only gets like 2 names in, and the music starts, and he starts just going like, and you, and Tom Cruise, I love you, and James L. Brooks, I love you, and he's just freaking out and shouting over the music that's trying to play him off. The whole crowd stands up and applauds for him, and he starts like yelling and jumping and like whooping on the stage and everything. It's amazing. So I knew, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty good from him, especially if he won over William H. Macy in Fargo. Which I was like, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I guess really that was more my mindset. I was like, it better bring it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a brilliant, Jerry Lundegaard deserved an Oscar. So let's see what you got.
Yeah.
And I fucking loved him in this movie.
There was
a point at some point right in the middle of my notes, I was just like, he's phenomenal. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't even write exactly what he was doing. So I was like, every fucking scene, everything he's doing, all of his mannerisms, the way that he says shit, he's great.
Ugh.
Renee Zellweger, which I did not really look up to see like what point in her career it was.
Obviously pre-Chicago.
Yeah, I was more thinking like, what's it
Bridget
called?
Jones's Diary.
Yeah. Those flicks.
Bridget Jones?
Yes.
Bridget Jones was
Bridget
90s,
Jones
right?
in 2001.
Oh, even
this
later
was
than
96.
I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so this was really more of her kind of coming out party in the rom-com scene. Like, this is her big thing. And of course, going up against fucking Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Oh my God, the pressure
Yeah,
there must be on that fucking thing. It's like, yeah, you're across from Tom Cruise. And you gotta fucking work with that. Good luck.
You gotta act like you're falling in love with him.
If you can't do it, a million broads can. It's my Hollywood agent from the 90s.
Very good. Very good.
I wasn't expecting this movie to date itself as much as it did. Like, most of the character stuff is, timeless. You know what I mean? And even the like general concept of how the sports agent works is still relevant. It's not like that has changed as much, or at the very least you can very clearly like see how this person would have been as important as they were at this point in time.
Yeah.
Now there's social media and all that kind of stuff, but they still have agents, so it's like it still works even if the money amounts seem odd for the like talent that these characters are supposed to have. It did confuse me a little bit, like just the contracts that Rod gets offered is like, obviously the first one seems super insulting now, you know what I mean? So back then I'm like, maybe it's not as insulting as the movie wants it, because it's like 1.4 million for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is absurd for someone who broke records of your team the year before. And it's like 1.4? That is the the dude off the streets contract nowadays, where it's like, we'll try. Let's see. You know what I mean? So
you kick?
Yeah. So it seemed like crazy insulting. And then it's like, gotta remember, 90s. Different fucking economy and inflation and all that kind of shit from then till now.
Yeah.
That has changed things. So it's like his final contract that he gets, the like 11 million over 4, now is like a, that's like a, yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But not like the dude on your team. You know what I mean? So that was a little odd. Also, the fact that at one point, I think it's right at the end when a phone is ringing, and Rod and Jerry don't know whose phone it is, and he says, "Whose porty is that?" I was like, oof, that slang probably had a shelf life of like 6 months. You know what I mean? Where it was like from before you carried phones around. And then a period when it was like, oh, a brand new thing and people don't really know what to call it. So like, it's a portable phone. Let's call it a porty. And then like 6 months later, it's like, well, just call it a cell phone. Like, oh, well, okay, yeah, let's just go with that. Porty sounds stupid.
Or mobile.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the thing. Like, it's a mobile phone.
Yeah. But I mean, the movie itself, the plot of the movie, I probably should have seen it coming a little bit more based on what I knew about the movie ahead of time, because it's like, obviously the show me the money scene,
right,
where it's clear in retrospect exactly what he's doing, where it's like, he's the only fucking dude that I have left. I'm gonna do whatever he fucking tells me to keep him with me, you know what I mean? But you see that scene out of context and you're just like, okay, they want to make money, yay. So you don't really get that. And so now it's like, oh, okay. And then I knew the scene where he leaves and wants everyone to come with him, or asking people to come with him. Like, that's a huge scene, parodied and half-baked. But, you know, that's a big thing from this movie, too. I should have seen it coming, that it was like, okay, so it's about a sports agent who essentially loses his job and clients and has to retain them. And the only one he has is this guy who's not really a superstar.
Yeah.
But he has to make him one, essentially, to like be able to survive anymore, because of the fact that he lost all the money from losing all the clients and getting fired and shit. I guess the way that it happened, I definitely did not see coming at all. Because, you know, it's starting off and he's doing the fast talking voiceover, you know, and about this and that and these kids and this guy's going to be the next big thing and this and that, whatever. So it's like, okay, we're going to see him being a sleazeball for a while.
Yeah.
And then he's going to you know, have the rug pulled out from under him. And then he's going to have to rebuild himself and become a better man. And then, like, immediately that hockey player's kid tells him to fuck himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, I'm a monster.
Yeah.
I want this guy to keep playing on 5 concussions because he makes me money. And his kid is literally begging me to stop him.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, let's not.
Only
I'd rather
a
make money.
Could stop your dad.
Yeah. The kid tells him to fuck off and he realizes, like, oh my God, I'm a monster.
Yeah.
A really great line too. Who would I become? Just another shark in a suit. And then the next thing he says, I hated myself. Well, no, I hated my place in the world.
Yes.
And I was like, that's like a heavy moment there for so early in a film, but it's cool. Like, obviously I'm not like angry about it. Like, God damn it. I needed to see him being a dick longer. I kind of enjoyed the fact that it like got right into it. It was just like, all right, and here's his fucking crisis. And he drafts like a manifesto, a 28 page long mission statement. Yeah. Basically just saying like, we should have fewer clients so that we can take care of the clients that we have. We'll make less money, but it will be better for us and them. And as soon as like that voiceover said it and you see him typing it and everything, and I was like, less money. So that's not going to go over well with anybody.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be a huge disaster. And it's just going to get slapped right back into his face, right?
Yep.
Like that's got to be it. And I was slightly confused once again, just because I've learned to not trust any movie ever with anything. I was like, dream sequence again? Because I was like, I don't know, this doesn't seem like what would happen. Because he comes into the office after all the fucking manifestos have been sent out, because he tries to take them back.
Yeah.
And they go out and he's obviously terrified. And I not that I have any like specific memory of it, but it was just like I could super empathize with the idea of like, everybody read a thing that I wrote and it's not going to go over well.
Yeah.
And now I have to go in and
deal with that.
The terrible feeling of like, oh my God, everyone's going to hate it. And he walks in and everyone's applauding. And I was like, dream sequence. Got to be a dream sequence, right? Should have learned from Risky Business that it was not a dream sequence. Because then they quick show that little shot of Jay Moore and fucking Donald Logue, you know, say to each other like, oh shit, how long do you think he's got? Like, oh, probably like a week. So then I realized it's like, okay, so they're all being like facetiously happy for him. Like, oh, you told the truth, buddy. Like, and even if you did, that's not going to end well for you. So he thinks he's done good.
Yeah.
You know, like it's really kind of sad. He really believes like, oh man, this took, you know, like everyone's on board with my great, brilliant idea that I was terrified of. Like, oh, this is wonderful.
That I wrote at 2 a.m.
I don't remember exactly when they do his bachelor party where they have the videos that they're showing and the weird. I thought they were actors at first. But I guess they were supposed to be the real girls. Like she took his little black book, which is like such a like people had that. Like that's not just like a movie trope. That feels like such a just a movie trope where it's like he's got his book with all of the ladies that he used to know. And it's like, and she knows where it is. Like, it's just a thing that's out. Like, he has it on display. Like, oh, there it is. Like, what the fuck are you doing with that?
I mean,
at least stash it in a box once you have a fiance. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird that she had it, I guess, is what threw me. But it's like, we made a video and we called all these girls and we got them in person to do like a little interview with them. But then it was like two like younger ladies, and then there was like an old lady that I guess that was probably supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, so are they all jokes? These are actual girls? I don't understand what's happening here. But since the way that they talk shit about him feels so real, it's like, okay, I guess they are his ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
That's just such a weird thing. Like, imagine your fiance calling these girls and being like, hey, would you do an interview with me about him? Like,
I don't know if it was her that made the video or if it was like whoever threw the bachelor party.
Well, but she was the one burning the book. So she was in the video. She was a part of it. She at least knew that this was happening.
Yeah, that's true. That's still
It's super
great.
Weird. I wound up hating Avery. I thought she was the worst.
Oh.
But either way, like, he's watching the video. The girls are talking about how he can't be alone. You know, like, oh, he's so whatever. He can't be alone. They literally just keep saying like, can't be alone, can't be alone, can't be alone. So
it's like a phobia.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, obvious how that's going to come into play later. Like that is clearly his flaw that will be exploited or whatever for later in the movie, especially because of how much it just focuses on his face as he's watching the video and hearing those words over and over. And you can tell that it's like getting to him. So after that must be when Sugar fires him.
Yeah.
And they go out to a restaurant, said he won't make a scene and tells him that he's fired. I loved that scene for the line of, I came here to fire you, Jerry. It's real. You should say something. Yeah. It was something so great about that, about him sitting there like not believing it at all and just being like, please address this.
Yeah.
You have been fired. And then immediately they make a mad dash back to the office separately.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's just lost his position at, I think it was called SMI.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
So he doesn't have his position there, but he has all these clients that are like under him. That's one thing where I just don't quite understand the logistics of that kind of stuff, where it's like, does the company own the like rights to to dealing with these players, or is that a moment where like immediately right there they have to make a decision? You know what I mean? Like the way that they call them to be like, hey, you should stick with SMI. Hey, you should come with me. I'm Jerry. Is that the legal thing where it's like they could just take all your dudes if they have everyone like waiting on the line, and then as soon as you are fired, they pick up the line and be like, hey, Jerry's fired. Stick with us. Hey, Jerry's fired. You know what I mean? Like they could have just done it like that and had it all ready beforehand. Yeah. Which blew my mind that they didn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like
why didn't you think that far?
Yeah, like obviously Jerry's gonna fight to keep clients. Like he's not just gonna roll over and die and just be like, well, I guess I'll go be a janitor somewhere or something. Like, you think he's not gonna try to
Nah, he went to law school. He'd be okay.
Well, I just mean like, do they really think that it's like, yeah, and he'll just stop being an agent, and we'll just take all of his clients, easy peasy? It's like, no, he's gonna fight for him, obviously. Yeah. And so he does, and he's calling them, and they're, you know, basically just trying to get to them first, so that one of them, either Sugar keeps him for SMI or he keeps him for Jerry Maguire Incorporated. The fuck? I don't think they ever mentioned what his new company's name is that he and Renee Zellweger start.
Yeah, I don't know.
But either way, it doesn't matter. It's basically just him. So it's like, fucking who needs a company name? One thing I did not quite understand, why did they allow Jerry to stay in his office all day and call clients to try to keep them away from the company that owns the building that he is currently in the office of? I mean, like, why wasn't he escorted out? He's fired.
I guess as a professional courtesy to give him to the end of the day.
I guess, but it's like, as soon as you realize that he's doing things that are hurting your company by taking the clients away that you want, how are you not like, oh shit, you know what? Let's get him out of here. If he was doing it real secretly and nobody knew, okay. Yeah. But he was screaming and yelling in his office, and he and Sugar like made eye contact about something during the course of it. And it was like, get him out. Is Sugar the one in charge after him? Because he's terrible at his job. Yeah. He needs to do better. Well, no, because there's another guy who's always walking on the catwalks above them.
I think he was just too cocky, not thinking Jerry's going to get anything.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, in the end, he got one client.
Yeah. So, but it was way harder than it needed to be.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. But either way, he loses everybody except for Rod Tidwell, Cuba Gooding Jr. And he is a wide receiver on the Cardinals, who also went to Arizona State. I forget which one the Sun Devils are. he's the only guy. He's like a marginal star on the team. Very much like he's just a slot receiver as opposed to like the big marquee, big giant wide receiver, which was written into the script specifically because of how tall Cuba Gooding Jr. is. Like apparently Cameron Crowe was just like, yeah, he's a football player. He's 5'10", he's tall enough, right? And people told him like, prototypical wide receiver, especially in that era. You look at the guys, they're more like 6'3", 6'4". They're bigger guys. Like a guy like Rod would be more of like a slot guy, and so he wrote that into the script. There was a surprising amount of football stuff in the movie, like on-field football stuff I was not expecting.
And that was nice.
And I thought it was super awesome, and it made me very, very happy to not have to sit there staring at some fake-ass team. And even the fact that they had Aikman and Primetime, like, because that was for a real game. Like the footage of them on the sidelines and some of them, the specific guys like Primetime and Aikman and everything, that was a real Dallas Cowboys, Arizona Cardinals game that they shot a bunch of stuff at and then added their shit that had Cuba Gooding in it into it later. So Jerry keeps Rod, and he's basically his only client. He has a sort of agreement with Jerry O'Connell's character. I forget the first name, but Cushman, the college quarterback who's going to go in the draft.
Yeah.
I liked how that sort of plot line played into Jerry's full story, and how sort of kicked down he gets to the point where he's only got Rod.
Yeah.
He thought he had this number one prospect kid who was going to go to the NFL and make millions and millions, and he'd be his guy. And as I was watching him and his dad, the Cushman kid and his dad, and I was just like, Frank. Yes. I was like, these fuckers, they're clearly bad. Like, I don't know what it is, but right from the top. And then when his dad says like, I'm not a man who signs things, but my word is as strong as oak or whatever. First thing I wrote, I was like, that's not going to be worth dick. Yeah. What an asshole. Oh. Like Jerry's dumb for not getting it. You know what I mean? Like he is dumb for being like, oh, I guess I'll trust this fucking asshole's handshake. But at the same time, I was like, fuck this dude for doing that when you know that he's going to go back on his word. Yeah. Like, what a fucking chump. I hate that guy. That happens after he gets fired, he loses the prospect as well. But he keeps Rod. That's pretty much it. And end of the day, he has to leave. Well, I guess we sort of skipped over the like super duper famous one, but Rod essentially forces him to scream, show me the money. Yeah. To keep his like business. Yeah. I find it really funny to like that. I don't think Rod knew what was going on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Rod was aware at that time that Jerry was losing all of his clients. Yeah. So it's like he has no idea that Jerry would do anything he asks him right now, but it's hysterical that he does, that he like asks him to do something like that. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I will yell anything you want. When he yells, I love black people. Yeah. Oh my God. That was the funniest fucking shit. Like Tom Cruise is really funny in this. Yeah. He is surprisingly funny for a guy who is kind of seen now as like sort of fake, and like kind of like he does like action movies and he like kind of does a little dramatic stuff, but it's like he's not really, he doesn't have a sense of humor. It's like in this movie he at least pretended like he had a sense of humor enough to make it funny to me. But there's such great solo Tom Cruise acting in this movie, because it's like him in that office screaming to Rod over the phone is all just Tom Cruise in a room yelling. Yeah. And he's fucking phenomenal. Oh yeah. And then later when he's in the car singing to Free Fallin' on the radio,
like, just like channel surfing essentially
until he finds something he can sing along with. That I thought was wonderful and just like a great little moment. I was like, man, he is really good in this. Oh yeah. But so at the end of the day, he's got to leave. And this moment I thought was hysterical. His little flail when he says, he's like, all right, everyone, I'm heading out. It's okay. I'm not gonna freak out.
Yeah.
That he goes like ragdoll. It looked like a Jim Carrey move.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was really good. And I was like, shit, man, this dude's like, he's showing me all sorts of shit I never knew Tom Cruise had, you know?
Yeah, right?
Like, it's a shame because there's so many people who have, fucking watched this movie like when it came out or a bunch of times or whatever. And so when they think of Tom Cruise, they'd probably think of a really charming and fun role like this. And then I'm sitting there like, I've seen a bunch of Mission Impossible movies. I'm not really impressed. It's like, well, because you're watching the wrong fucking movie, you idiot. Me. But yeah, his little speech to them and asking who's going to come with him, and nobody stands up. So he goes and steals the fish.
Yeah.
And puts them in a Ziploc bag. Where did that Ziploc bag come from?
I have no idea.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if I missed it, but I was like, he walks over there. And then he just has a Ziploc bag to put the fish in. I can only imagine that that there wasn't enough written into the script of when he picks it up. And so they were just like, yeah. And then he walks over and then he puts them in the bag. Like, put the bag. Doesn't he have he's got a bag, right? Well, okay, now he has a bag and he puts the fish in the bag. It's like, who cares? Just fucking.
There was a
over.
Ziploc bag somewhere. He found it on his way over, grabbed it, and
yeah, pulled it out of the trash, whatever. Who cares? He takes the fish, and the fish wind up being in the movie a lot more than I thought they were going to, which I thought was great. But finally, Dorothy stands up.
Yes.
And they had previously had a scene. I was looking at my notes and realized, like, oh shit, that's right. I totally skipped over the plane scene. But Dorothy, Renee Zellweger's character, stands up and joins him to basically quit and go start his new sports agency, whatever. And immediately I was like, man, that's a bad decision.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great character move. It's a wonderful thing. Like, oh yeah, totally. But it's such a bad decision. And it's a really bad decision because of that previous scene, like the scene where they kind of meet for real. Because they are both on a plane. And she is creeping on him.
Yeah, she is.
So hard that she is literally kneeling in the aisle. Like it's not even just like leaned over in her seat to get a better look. It's literally like, I have gotten out of my seat. I have walked several feet forward towards where the fucking first class and coach separates. I am kneeling next to a stranger. Like I'm on the floor in the aisle next to a stranger, watching a man talk and just going like, oh my gosh, he's so amazing. And nobody says anything about it except her kid, who's like, are you okay? So she's like super creepy in general. And then at the airport, she's walking around, she's screaming for Ray, her kid, because he's missing. Turns out he's on the luggage carousel giving people high fives.
Which looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean,
not gonna lie.
Yeah. This is Jonathan Lipnicki's film debut. This is the first thing he was ever in. I only really knew of him because of
Stuart Little.
Yeah, but I don't even feel like I watched those movies. I feel like I just know who this kid is because I saw trailers for movies he was in. I don't think I've ever seen a movie with him in it.
Really?
Before this.
I knew him from the first Stuart Little. I never saw the second one. But then I also saw The Little Vampire. Chrissy was a big fan of that.
Okay, yeah, I definitely.
Lesser known, I couldn't even tell you who else was in that movie. But again, like a cutesy kid vampire movie.
Gotcha. He is pretty good as Ray. It's clear, like it was clear to me while watching it, and then I looked and read about it and learned that it's like, yeah, no, you're right. That a lot of the stuff that he did, especially with Tom Cruise when he comes over drunk, that sort of stuff was just like, we're just gonna roll the cameras and we're gonna have John and Tom talk. Like they're not gonna be like characters saying scripted lines. It was literally just this kid talking to Tom Cruise, whatever. Apparently he just showed up on the set one day telling everybody that the human head weighs 8 pounds, and Cameron Crowe was like, we're just gonna put that in. He's just gonna tell it to everybody. He's gonna keep talking about it.
He's kind of adorable.
Yeah, I mean,
because he's well behaved.
Yeah, I mean, sort of.
For the most part, he is a little bit obnoxious and a little bit of mischievous, but
I was just thinking because like the whole thing is like she's looking for Ray, she can't find him. Jerry walks by and he's just like, oh shit, can I help you? Because she's just like screaming in an airport and nobody cares. I thought that was bizarre. It's like, I get that she's a single mom, so it's like, you know, it's a tough place to be and everything, but it's like nothing. He's just like screaming for her child and nobody cares until Tom Cruise walks by and he's like, oh, hey, you got a problem? What's going on? And she's looking for the kid, and then, you know, he sort of points him out on the carousel, like, hey, found him. He's over there. And the kid comes over. She kind of scolds him. And he she says she says that she read his manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, I work in your office. And I was like, oh, okay. Because that's the first time we see her is on that plane.
Mm-hmm.
And she hears Tom Cruise talking and fucking creeps on him hardcore. And like, she barely says anything else. We don't learn anything about her. So I'm like, so she just like finds this handsome man and just like globs onto him immediately. And then it was like, oh, she works in his office. She knows who he is. She already has a crush on him.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still creepy that she gets all the way in the aisle. But now I get it that it's like, oh, there he is. Yeah. Oh, it's not just like random person.
Yeah.
Love now. Like, he's not a complete maniac.
Yeah.
So it made a little bit more sense. But she tells him that she read the manifesto and she really liked it. And he's like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Okay. Really quick. Were you weirded out at all by the like level of detail he knew about her already without them having seemingly really interacted much before? He's like, yeah, you're Dorothy whatever from accounting. And you're in this office or this cubicle, whichever.
Oh, yeah. You got a poster with something. Yeah, I mean, I sort of saw that as showing that he is like an attentive person to the people he works with, I think that was more what they were getting at, was that it was like someone who to him is just like the person who makes sure the money goes where it needs to, you know what I mean? Like to all these other agents, they're probably they don't even recognize them, let alone know which cubicle they're in. But Jerry actually seems like a relatively decent person, especially like at that point in the movie, because he's already written the thing. So it kind of felt like that to me. But I guess you could also kind of see it, and it would make a little bit more sense as to how like hard they fall in love. Is like maybe he kind of has a little thing for her too. You know what I mean? Even though he has the fiance and everything, they kind of showed that was fucking weird. Yeah. Like in general, and her like personal philosophy of like brutal honesty, where it was like, dude, fuck you. Personally, I really don't like the whole like, I'm just brutally honest kind of thing, where it's just like, so
it's just an excuse to be a bitch.
Yeah, all that means is that you want to be cruel to people, but you don't want to be called out for it. So I'm just being honest. It's like you could be selectively honest and not be horribly cruel to people you're supposed to love. So I hate your whole thing. Like I immediately did not like her. I think that was probably one of my only big things with it, was that like I almost wished he just wasn't fucking with anybody at the beginning of the movie, and that they just sort of fell in love. Like his job was his, wife, or however you want to phrase it. You know what I mean? Because as soon as she showed up, there you go. That's the way humans say it, and not fucking aliens who heard the phrase once and don't remember it. Like, his job was his wife. He loved fucking his job. But as soon as you meet her, you're like, you're the worst. And clearly he's going to wind up with Renee Zellweger. So just get out of this movie as fast as you can. Yeah. I don't need to fucking hear you anymore. Yeah. Yeah. And then later she's like a full on like mean girl, like talking shit behind someone else's back, like silently to him. Like, who's there?
Yeah, walking by with the L on her forehead.
Oh my God. I was like, you could not be more cartoony lame if you tried. Like, that is the dumbest.
I mean, I know that was like big in the 90s. That was like the thing to do to people.
She started it.
Come on.
That was the first time anyone ever did that. It blew people's minds. But yeah, the kid was a little bit annoying because I wrote a note about it, because he helps her find him, and then they're standing there talking for a while. And then the kid gets bored because he's a kid and they're not talking to him. So he's to do whatever. And so he's got Jerry's hand and his mom's hand. And so while they're talking about all this stuff, he's just swinging back and forth from their arms while they're trying to talk. And she asks, is this bothering you? I just wrote, oh, what? Your monkey child swinging from my arm? No, this is wonderful. But like, if I was trying to talk to someone, it was just like, I'd be like, we need to, something needs to change right now. Yeah. We either need to stop talking and finish swinging this child until he's done, or we need to drop the child and finish talking. We cannot do both.
I opt for dropping the child.
Yeah. So they have like a little bit of a history, and clearly she's like super into him. She's a single mom. She's got a kid. The kid loves Jerry immediately, and Jerry is like super cool to the kid. Which to me, I was like, well, there you go, movie. Like, if you need to make a character look nice and good to like a wide audience of people, just like have him be cool with kids. And then people are like, oh man, that guy, he's got something to him, doesn't he? You know what I mean? It's like, unless it's shot like really creepily, you know, and the guy looks like John Malkovich and he's like, hello there, little child, you know, then it's weird. But in this case, it's Tom Cruise and it's shot normally. So people like him.
Yes.
So when he leaves the office and, you know, he asks if anyone's coming with him and everyone's just like, no, his fucking assistant, even he's like, come on, let's go. And she's like, oh, Jerry, this isn't happening. I'm about to get a promotion.
Yeah,
so.
She was like 3 months from a pay raise or something. Like,
yeah, so it's like
worth it to stay.
No, yeah, it was just so sad that it's like, oh, did you not clear this with her? Like, were you just assuming? Oh, that's embarrassing. But it was kind of wonderful in that way of seeing Tom Cruise play a guy that people weren't 100% about. You know what I mean? Like that they were like, ooh. I read that Cameron Crowe talked to like some of Tom Cruise's friends and they were like, he's never going to play a loser. Don't even ask him.
Yeah.
Like that's almost insulting that he could be a loser. He plays it so well.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I'm so glad he made that choice. But it is kind of weird to watch people be like, oh, geez, I don't want to be associated with this guy.
Yeah.
Like, who, Tom Cruise?
Yeah. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So that was neat, but it's also super embarrassing for him. And he's basically going to be leaving alone. And Dorothy makes the horrible financial decision, but wonderful character decision to say that she's going to go with him.
Yeah.
Him, her, the fish. They're all going to start their new company, and he's got his clients, so he thinks.
Yeah.
But he at least has Rod. And we already sort of said that Cuba Gooding is great in it, but he's so fucking good in it. I loved all of his family and all those people. Regina King as his wife was fantastic. She was actually pregnant during filming. That wasn't like a fake out. It wasn't a fucking pillow under her shirt. It's just like, oh, you're pregnant? Well, good, because your character's pregnant.
Yeah.
I hope that was how it worked out.
All right, your character's pregnant now.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, that actually might even be a better way. If it's like, oh shit, well, we really want you, so you're pregnant. Aries Spears as his brother, TP, I thought was fucking hilarious.
Oh my God, fuck TP.
Dude, I mean, he was obviously being a bit of a dick later.
Yeah.
But one thing that I thought was like really weird in retrospect, especially right now, is just the fact that like way later in the movie, Rod is talking on that show and he mentions that his little brother TP is a little militant, but I love him and whatever. And just the fact that like he was considered militant, you know what I mean? Because the first time you see him, he's wearing a shirt that says, "Do not arrest this man."
Yes.
And I was like, that's an amazing shirt and hilarious. And B, like that is a normal dude now. You know what I mean? Like that is just a human being who understands how fucked up it is.
Yeah.
And is wearing that shirt to be like, yeah, fuck you. Do not arrest this man. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
But back then in 96, it was like, oh, that guy's a little militant. Like, holy shit, that's militant to you? Yeesh. But yeah, so his family's great. And obviously his storyline is a really great kind of like B storyline to this movie, because it's like you could very easily, like I was saying before, where it's like, you know, you can cut stuff to make it more of a traditional rom-com. Yeah. Like in a more traditional rom-com, I bet you a lot of Rod's stuff would have been cut. It would have been more of like a side thing to him to focus on him and her. But in this case, it was like, no, it's kind of intrinsically tied to everything in this movie. You can't really cut it because sort of the whole point is like building that relationship between the agent and the player. Yeah. You know,
this is about Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about Jerry and Dorothy.
Yeah.
Even though it is, but you know. So Jerry's got the two clients as so he thinks, and he immediately starts to neglect Rod. I noticed, like they get to the draft and he's bringing Rod to the draft, and it's something that I thought was weird because I was like, he's not being drafted. Yeah. But it made for a great sort of scene of like him leaving Rod behind to go deal with this fancy kid who's going to be first overall and clearly his more important client, air quotes, which makes it all the more crushing when Cushman's dad betrays him by being like, yeah, we actually already signed with Bob Sugar. Yeah. So eat a dick, Jerry Maguire. My word isn't worth anything. Yeah. I was like, oh, fuck this guy.
We signed an hour ago. you were downstairs with the black man.
Yeah, and that was ridiculous. It was like he was talking to Rod for like a second and then immediately came back to you. So if you're actually pissed off about that, you can go fuck yourself. Oh, terrible.
Awful.
Terrible people. Terrible, terrible people. Once Cushman drops him and it's just him and Rod, I like the fact that Rod, like, at that point, now he knows that he is his only dude, you know, and there's nothing else. And it's kind of it makes you like Rod a lot. At least it made me like Rod, that he was like, no, fuck you. I'm going to stick with you. Like, you know, there was something wonderful about that attitude where it's like, instead of being like, oh, this guy's a fucking loser, I'm going to go find someone else or whatever. And it's like, no, you know what? Just do your fucking job for me then.
Yeah.
You know, like, do it well for me. I'm going to push you to do your job better than just to drop you because you're doing it poorly. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a more interesting, you know, character thing to do. And obviously it sort of needs to happen, because if Jerry has no clients, then the movie's over and he has to, you know, find a job somewhere else. I don't know.
I mean, it does play into what was said about Rod, that, you know, off the field, he's all heart. And then on the field, he's all brain.
Yeah.
Going the extra mile to think about someone who he's had a relationship with for at least some period of time, to not give up on him, essentially.
Yeah. It was a great moment for the character. Like, that's one of the real strengths of this movie, is the fact that the characters are really strong.
Oh, yeah.
And the choices that they make are very, like, deliberate to, like, sort of show you the kind of people that they are. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, Rod sticks with him, Jerry sticks with Dorothy, you know, out of that sort of loyalty thing he mentions later. Were you at all sort of like, what the fuck is going on when they got married?
Yes.
It seemed like they were, like, decently dating, you know what I mean? Like, they had their few scenes of, you know, going out to dinner and whatnot. I thought it was a little manipulative of her, but really obviously manipulative, that I thought that Jerry would have caught on, but he apparently didn't, when she kind of forces him to go to dinner with her. You remember? Because he's sitting there and he's freaking out. He's got Rod, whatever. And she's like, oh, because she understands that, like, yo, he can't be alone. He can't be alone. That's why he comes over when he's drunk, because he's like, I don't know anybody else. And I just broke up with Avery and you're here. So I want to hang out because I don't want to be alone. Yeah. So she understands that that's his, like, thing. And she's like, oh, well, I guess this is just something you got to think about all by yourself, all alone, alone. Well, I'm going to leave. And then he was like, wait, do you want to go to dinner? And then they go to dinner and all, you know what I mean? And it's like, that was so obvious that she was fucking pulling the strings to make that happen. And I thought it was going to be a thing of him like, I know what you were doing and I totally wanted to anyway. So it was super adorable, but it just seemed like he fell for it. And I was like, you idiot. How did you not see that? But they go out to dinner, you know, whatever, they're dating. Time kind of flies by at a certain point in this movie, but without a lot of showing you exactly how much. So, you know, she decides, like, okay, I need a real job that makes money. And Jerry obviously isn't making any money as her boss, so she's not making any money. I actually wrote a note in here. I was like, how is Jerry making any money right now? And then immediately the next scene was her being like, I need to move to San Francisco so that I can take a job, San Diego, so that I can take a job that actually pays me. And I was like, oh, there we go. Okay. He doesn't have any money. Gotcha. But so she's going to bail and he's just like, let's get married. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I was like, okay, so then we're going to kind of see a little bit more. And then boom, next scene, they are married. Yeah. Marriage happens. And he looks immediately unhappy. And I'm just like, this was so clearly way too fast and a bad decision. Yeah. How did no one stop them? How did her sister not stop them?
Yeah, seriously.
Laurel, right?
Laurel.
Yeah, yep. She was such his biggest enemy in the movie. And she's just like, I don't fucking trust this guy. He's clearly bad news, you know, and she wants her to leave when she's watching from the kitchen when she's about to drive the truck away. And she's like, wait, no. Yeah. Don't stay. Go. Like she wants her to go. She wants her sister to leave. Yeah. So that she doesn't keep getting stuck with Tom Cruise and his loserness. And then she just runs back inside like, we're going to get married. And she's like, ugh. And then that's kind of it. She just like rolls her eyes and then she tells him that if you fuck this up, I'll kill you. Yeah.
Again. I loved her. I don't remember the actress's name.
She was good. I felt bad because I judged her harshly early on, but it was really just because of like a stupid writing trope that they always use. Because when she first shows up at the airport to pick up Dorothy, she's like, I'm double parked. We got to go. And I'm like, fuck you, lady. Like, double park. Go to hell. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care how busy your fucking airport is. Don't double park.
Yeah.
That is the shittiest thing to do. And you're a total asshole if you do it. I don't care if you're going in and picking someone up in a second. Like, fuck you. Don't double park. But it's just something they always use in movies and shit. Or it's just like, oh, I'm double parked. I'm double parked. And it's like, you know, that doesn't give the scene urgency. It just makes me think you're a dick. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, this wouldn't be very urgent if you had found an appropriate parking space.
Yeah. Or just driven around again until I came out. Like,
yeah. It's like, I get there's no like cell phones, or there's not many cell phones for them to contact each other to be like, just meet me outside. But just meet her outside. I don't know what to tell you. You're being a dick. So I was kind of more mean to her than she needed to be. And as the movie went on, she grew on me.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, fucking Laurel, I don't like this Laurel. So like they get married and then it's like immediately bad. And Jerry's on the road a lot, working with Rod and working with the Cardinals and trying to get him a better contract and stuff. And so that just puts a huge fucking strain on the relationship, to the point where, because like I'm thinking about it and even looking at my notes, it's like I don't really even have like a specific scene where they like fight or there's some huge thing that comes between them. It's just literally like she feels like he's not all in.
She admits to like taking advantage of him.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that she took all the blame. Like she put it all on herself.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I mean, I guess. I mean, it's good that you're like acknowledging that you did do that.
Yeah.
But for one, it really should have been more obvious to him.
Yeah.
And two, like it takes two to fucking get married. I don't know what to tell you. You know, like you can't take all the blame for this. But yeah, she sort of is like, oh, and you know, you're always away and blah, blah, blah. And because there was that conversation that Jerry had with Rod as well about like, why did you even marry her? And it's like loyalty, because she was there for me when I left, you know, my last job and everything. And she believed in me and whatever. And it's like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make a marriage. Like, oh shit. Okay. And then she breaks up with him. I guess that's why I found it so weird, is that it seemed like he was the one who had the epiphany of like, oh man, maybe I'm not all the way in this. And then she comes to him and it's like, it seems like you're not all the way into this.
Yeah.
And she dumps him essentially. And I was like, oh, okay. That seemed like it happened backwards. I don't know.
Yeah. So they didn't waste 10 years just being polite.
Yeah, I did love that line. I thought that was a wonderful sort of sentiment to the scene. So it's like, I liked it happening. I was just I was like, wait a minute. Which one of you realized this? Like, did you all? Okay. So they're not married anymore.
I don't know if they're not
Well,
married.
yeah. They're gonna not be married.
They're
anymore.
on a break.
Yeah, he's on a road trip with Rod. They're going to Dallas for it's like the last game of the season, and the Cardinals could go to the playoffs if they win the game. And so it's like super important. Rod's been playing pretty well, and
It's
he wants
Monday
his new
Night
contract.
Football.
Yeah, it's Monday Night Football, which is, well, I guess maybe it's different back then, because I was like, they don't do Monday Night Football last week of the season. But
I don't know
back
if
then
it was
different.
I don't know if it was necessarily the last week of the season, but it was definitely like a playoff clinching game.
Yeah, I guess so. There were other things. Earlier in the movie, they mentioned like the prospects, you know, like coming up for the draft. And they mentioned that, you know, there's 26 teams that are going to be selecting. And I was like, 26 teams?
Oh, man.
Oh, shit, that's right. I realized, I was like, fuck, man, there's several teams that don't exist at this point.
That was
holy crap.
6 teams ago.
Yeah, so that threw me a little bit, but they're going to play the Cowboys, big time game. Rod's having like a hell of a game. He's doing real well. I'll preface this. I liked a lot of this movie. I did not really like how this thing ended.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with it being so dated and just not aging well. And some of it was that it felt a little like, really? That's it? Because the whole thing with Rod, like the whole thing might be a bit overstating it. But the thing with Rod is that, you know, he's kind of standoffish. He's not very like personable to the media, to fans, to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like he's good, but people don't like him.
Yeah.
And so
except for his family.
Yeah. So
who he is like the exact opposite with.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, you know, if we can get the same production from someone else, no one's going to care if we lose him. You know, so it kind of makes it hard to negotiate for a new contract for him, because it's like, well, even the fans aren't going to fight for him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that guy, he never fucking says anything to us. We don't care.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one of his like arcs that it has to sort of close. Is like, okay, you got to learn to be a sort of team player, not just of the team of the sport, but of like the whole sport itself. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta play the game. I know earlier he says like, you want me to dance, and he's like, no, not dance. Just don't be such a dick.
Yeah,
that's sort of the thing.
I really like that moment because Jerry was talking to him about like playing with heart. Like, think back to when you first started playing football. It wasn't about the money. And there was that little smirk from Rod that he was like remembering that.
Yeah.
And then he like shakes it off and is like all about the money again.
Yeah. That scene does have a fantastic moment from Tom Cruise. That line right there. He's just like, think back, way back. It wasn't about the money then, was it? And Rod kind of like looks at him and he's like, was it? You know, like he kind of realizes like, oh my God, wait a minute. Was this about the money the whole time?
Yeah.
Did you never have any actual like love of the game? That's so weird. But so, you know, it's last game, playoff clinching game. He's having a good game, but he still hasn't done that thing that, you know, wins everybody over.
Yeah. The Cardinals are down by like 2 or 3, something like that.
I think it was
maybe more.
It was like 14-17 at that point, or maybe it was 14-10 or something like it was one of those scores where it's like a touchdown puts you ahead for sure. The whole game, they keep showing him taking like big hard shots. And for one, I was like, those shots aren't that hard.
Yeah.
They would put the sound effect of a really hard tackle over it. But a lot of times it was like, that was even for like today's standards, that was a pretty standard tackle. Like he wasn't getting lit up the way that the announcers were saying.
Yeah.
But that's what's supposed to be happening is that he's kind of getting his ass kicked out there, but he's still having a really good game.
Yeah.
And finally, you know, it's one of those like, you know, final moments in the game. Fucking Cardinals quarterback throws a pass to Rod in the end zone and he catches the ball, but he gets fucking nailed and he lands on his head.
Yeah, flips over.
Lands like basically just like straight down onto his head and is unconscious on the field for several minutes.
Yep.
That does not age well. Just right off the bat, like they're very concerned, you know, everyone's like, oh my God. And his wife is like, you know, sobbing at home, like, oh my God, just please move. So like that works in terms of like it being a scary moment.
Yeah. And then the broadcast of the game did the dreaded fade to black.
Yeah, exactly. It goes to commercial and she's like, what the fuck is that all about? And Jerry's, you know, watching from the sidelines and they got the trainers out there. Like everyone's freaking out about it. That's where it suddenly takes a really horrible turn based on when it was made versus watching it now.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting there and you see him go down and he fucking lands on his head. He's unconscious for several minutes. They're literally like, it's not even a case of like, where does it hurt? Because he is fucking unconscious. They're literally just like, please wake up, Rod. Oh my God, please wake up.
They were clapping and yelling.
Yeah.
For him to like blink.
Just to do anything, show us that you like, just please become conscious again for the love of God. And you're sitting there watching that and you're like, okay, that's duly terrifying and like a really like, oh my God moment. Not just for the fact that, you know, they mentioned earlier that it's like, Rod, if you get injured, you get nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get a new contract if you're injured.
Yeah.
So this happens and you're like, oh my God. But then that terrible gnawing feeling in the back of your mind rolls up and you're like, this movie is not going to end like that.
Yeah.
I just know it. There is no way that this movie ends with, and then Rod gets carted off to the hospital and he doesn't get a contract next year and he dies penniless and alone. You know what I mean? It's like, that is not the way this movie is going to go. So I'm like, how are they going to do it? How is he going to not be
dead?
Because I literally wrote, I was like, oh God, Rod is dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, but obviously I knew. I was like, oh my God, something's going to happen. I don't know. I wrote in my notes, I wrote Three Stooges because that was like the best I could think of. Since then, I was like, it kind of feels almost more Mel Brooksian or something, or like Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun movies, or like those parody movies. That's what it felt like when Rod just gets up and is like, oh shit, I'm okay. In fact, let me break dance in the end zone and do all these dances and oh my God, look at me and I am
climb up in the stadium.
Yeah, and doing all that shit. And I was like, right now, that happening is a parody of what would happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, oh no, he'll just walk it off and be fine, even though it's horrible injury, you know, but in this case, it was supposed to be like, look, the triumph.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there like, take him to the fucking hospital.
Like,
he was unconscious for several minutes.
Yeah.
And this movie's going to play it off like everything's cool. Like,
Yeah.
no, dude, he's fine. Like
he's a football player. He's all right.
Exactly. And it's like he had a concussion earlier in this movie. And it's like, and now he had to have had a concussion from this. There's no way that he doesn't. It unfortunately plants all the seeds in your mind of later of like, yeah, and when he's 45, Rod Tidwell's gonna walk over to a park near his house and shoot himself in the chest so that they can study his brain later. Like it all ends dark.
Yeah.
So having it be like horrifying injury is the like big moment for the end of the movie. Super tasteless now.
Yeah.
I do not blame them necessarily back then, especially if Cameron Crowe didn't know as much about football as he, you know, as it seems like he might not have.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wouldn't expect him to know about, you know, the implications of multiple concussions on people. You know what I mean? He was a filmmaker. He was writing shit. He was a journalist for Rolling Stone and shit. Like that's not his world.
He was artsy, not sportsy.
Exactly. So it's like, I understand him not caring in that sense of like, oh yeah, and at the end of the movie he'll be injured, but he'll get up and it'll be great and it'll be triumphant and everything's cool. So I don't blame it.
Yeah.
Just watching it now, there's like no way to feel good about that.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a horrible injury. You should not be up. You should be in the hospital. Your career should be over. You know what I mean? Like that was horrifying. Having seen that kind of shit before, like, oh, what was his name? Lockett from the Seahawks, who got nailed on a punt return, and he was just laying there.
Yep.
For like 10 minutes,
That
and it
was
was
awful.
horrifying. There have been so many times watching football where it has faded to commercial after an injury, and I'm like, that might be the one. That might be the death that will eventually happen to a fucking sport like that, where it's just like, there will be no way to untelevise that.
Yeah.
Like one day it's going to be horrifying. And in that moment, I was just like, this feels bad. This does not feel triumphant.
Millions of people just watch this man die.
Yeah, like that ending does not feel triumphant, and it just feels silly and almost insulting to be like, oh no, just get up, shake it off, break dance, everything's fine. I'm like, no. But he caught the touchdown. He won the game. He is apparently not dead and not injured enough to not go to the playoffs. I assume they went to the playoff, however the fuck it happened. They don't really show that.
I mean, they did say that the Cardinals were going to the playoffs.
Well, I just mean like later that they don't really say how it goes or how much he plays or whatever, but you assume that like he continues to play with no complications at all, apparently. And he and Jerry have a big, huge embrace afterwards, you know, because they realize like, oh, fuck, we're buds now.
Yeah.
And they share a big, long hug. Yeah, we did it. They got the contract. The other sports stars that are standing around are like, why don't we have a relationship like that? The guy with Sugar, and he tries to hug him, and he's like, get out of here. Like, don't just start hugging me. That's not what I mean. So, you know, that all happens. Pretty much he's done exactly what he wanted to do in his manifesto for his professional career.
Right.
So what's left is like, well, fuck his, you know, personal relationship with Dorothy. You know, it's like there's the kid that he clearly loves, and, you know, and it broke his heart to think of like, what's going to happen to him if once I leave, you know, like he loves having me around, you know, and it's like, oh, I guess you guys will just still be buddies or whatever, you know, and he clearly, you know, can't take that. And he shows up at Dorothy's sister's house where she also lives and all that, and gives his whole big speech. And he tells her, you complete me, like the sign language that she read earlier in the movie. I had completely forgotten that there was you complete me and there was the you had me at hello, which are two of like the big famous movie lines. I was like, does this movie have both of those lines?
Yep.
Because I knew that it had at least one of them, but I was like, wait, does it really have fucking show me the money and help me help you and you had me at hello and you complete me? All of those fucking and fucking like who's coming with me? You know, it has all of that in one movie.
Yep.
Holy shit. That worked as like an ending part of just like, oh my God, that was exactly what it should have been. Like knowing those moments out of context,
Yeah.
knowing, like, having heard them before and now finally seeing them after the whole movie. It's basically like the last scene has those lines in it, and you're like, awesome. That was well done.
Yes.
I mean, overall, I wound up really digging it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe not so much you'd be like, I might watch this one like every couple of years. Like, if I watch it again, it probably won't be for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But when a movie is like 2 hours, 18 minutes long, or 2 hours, 8 minutes long, however much it was 2 hours plus.
Yeah.
But whenever a movie is that long and you don't like feel it, you know, and you're not sitting there like, fuck, come on, another half hour. When it doesn't feel like that, it feels like a win. And then on top of it all, it was like, not only did it not offend me horribly, like not only was it not annoying, but also Tom Cruise was pretty fucking great in it.
Yeah.
And Renee Zellweger and fucking Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
Really, all three of them nail it.
Renee Zellweger was
she's adorable.
So freaking adorable. Her facial expressions.
that mouth agape moment when what was that for?
That was
I wrote
when
it down.
she was talking with
I broke up with Avery. He says I broke up with my girlfriend, but he's facing away from her, and she just goes like mouth drops open. So that was a beautiful little moment. I think that's going to wrap it up here for Popcorn for Dinner this week. We got one more week of Tom Cruise month coming up. Last one is going to be another one on the side of like less than classic Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
But since it's Steven Spielberg, people remember it very well. Like, or remembered fondly. Like, oh yeah. But I haven't watched it in quite a while, so I'm excited to sort of watch it again.
I've never seen it.
Minority Report. That is going to be fun. Colin Farrell.
Oh.
Max von Sydow.
Don't know who that is.
You'll recognize him.
Okay.
He's in Shutter Island.
Oh, all right, perfect.
And I forget who else is in it, but that's going to be half the fun because I'm going to watch it and be like, oh, fuck, this person's in it. This is going to be great.
Oh, that's right. I love that moment. Like, oh, shit.
All right, well, this is Jeff.
And Kelly.
These fish have manners.